You are alone in the Atlantic Ocean. Your boat has been torn open. Water is rushing through the hull. The lights are gone. The cabin is filling. And the storm outside is throwing waves across the deck. You do not have hours to prepare. You may not even have minutes. Everything you own is about to disappear beneath thousands of feet of black water. You manage to inflate a small rubber life raft and climb inside. The raft is only about 6 feet across. You have 8 ounces of fresh water, a few cans of food, 3 experimental solar stills, a short spear gun, some emergency flares, and no reliable way to tell rescuers exactly where you are. The nearest land is hundreds of miles away. The Atlantic current is carrying you west. Nobody knows with certainty that your boat has gone down, and the tiny dark raft beneath your body is nearly invisible to passing ships. Most people imagine that open ocean survival is determined by one dramatic danger: a shark attack, a violent storm, or a final desperate rescue. But the ocean usually works more slowly than that. It removes water from your body. It burns your skin. It weakens your muscles. It damages your equipment. It distorts your judgment. And it forces you to solve the same basic problems every day with fewer physical resources than you had the day before. In 1982, Steven Callahan survived that process for 76 days. He crossed approximately 1,800 miles of the Atlantic inside a life raft. He lost roughly 1/3 of his body weight. His skin became covered in saltwater sores. His equipment deteriorated. His raft developed a dangerous puncture, and several ships passed close enough for him to see them without ever seeing him. This is the story of the horrifying mathematics that kept Steven Callahan alive, and why his greatest battle did not begin when his boat sank. It began after he had already survived more than 6 weeks at sea. The voyage. Steven Callahan was 29 years old when he departed the Canary Islands on January 29, 1982. His destination was Antigua. The journey would take him west across the Atlantic aboard Napoleon Solo, a small 21-foot sailing boat that he had designed and built himself. Callahan was not unfamiliar with boats or navigation. He was an experienced sailor, naval architect, and boat designer. Napoleon Solo had already crossed sections of the Atlantic. But approximately 1 week after leaving the Canary Islands, Callahan encountered worsening weather. On the night of February 4th, something struck the boat. Callahan later believed the object may have been a whale, but he never saw exactly what caused the impact. The collision tore open the hull. Water began entering with enormous force. This was not the kind of slow leak that could be controlled with a bucket and a pump. The interior began flooding rapidly while breaking waves battered the vessel. Callahan inflated his emergency life raft and abandoned the cabin. Napoleon Solo did not immediately vanish. Watertight compartments helped keep part of the damaged boat above water for a limited period. That gave Callahan an opportunity that would become critical to his survival. He returned to the wreck several times. Each trip placed him in danger of becoming trapped inside the flooded hull or separated from the raft. But he managed to retrieve additional equipment. He recovered a sleeping bag, a cushion, navigation charts, a short spear gun, emergency supplies, 3 solar stills designed to turn seawater into drinkable water, and a copy of a survival manual written by another famous ocean survivor. Before dawn, a powerful wave separated the raft from Napoleon Solo. The boat disappeared behind the seas. Callahan was now alone. There was no engine noise, no cabin, no mast, no stable deck beneath his feet. His world had been reduced to a small inflatable circle surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean. The first calculation. The first major survival problem was water. A person can survive for weeks without significant food under some circumstances. Without fresh water, survival is usually measured in days. Callahan initially had only about 8 ounces of drinking water. That is approximately 1 cup. A person resting in a mild environment might require roughly 2 liters of water per day, although the exact amount varies according to temperature, activity, and physical condition. Callahan was living beneath direct tropical sunlight. He was sweating. He was breathing dry, salty air. He was experiencing seasickness. He was working to control and repair equipment. He was already operating at a severe disadvantage. 1 cup of water would not sustain him for long. His real hope rested with the 3 solar stills. A solar still uses sunlight to evaporate seawater. The salt remains behind, while freshwater vapor condenses against a cooler surface and drains into a collection container. The process sounds simple. In practice, it can be slow and unreliable. The still must remain properly positioned. Sunlight must be available. The plastic cannot leak. Salt water cannot contaminate the collection chamber, and the amount produced may be far less than the person needs. Callahan had to experiment with the stills before he could make them work effectively. Every mistake cost time. Every cloudy period reduced production. Every malfunction threatened his ability to remain alive. This was the first brutal equation of his survival. Fresh water produced had to equal or exceed the water his body was losing. When production fell below that level, he entered a biological debt. His body compensated by reducing urine production. His mouth dried. His blood volume decreased. His heart worked harder. His thinking could become slower and less reliable. He was not trying to remain comfortable. He was trying to keep the deficit small enough that his organs continued functioning. Rain offered another possible source. When storms passed over the raft, Callahan attempted to capture fresh water using whatever surfaces and containers he could improvise. But collecting rain at sea is more difficult than simply opening a container. Wind blows water sideways. Waves throw salt spray across the raft. A small amount of seawater can contaminate an entire supply. The canopy must be arranged so that rain travels toward a clean collection point. And every container must be secured before another wave carries it away. Water became currency. Every mouthful had to be measured against tomorrow. The calorie deficit. Once Callahan established a limited water supply, food became the next major problem. His emergency provisions included small amounts of nuts, raisins, eggs, beans, cabbage, and canned meat. Those supplies could only delay starvation. They could not support him for months. The average adult man may require more than 2,000 calories per day to maintain body weight under ordinary circumstances. Callahan was exposed to cold nights, physical work, stress, and constant motion. His requirements may have been even higher. But after the emergency food was gone, the Atlantic provided no packaged meals. He had to turn the ocean around his raft into a hunting ground. At first, catching fish proved difficult. Fish moved beneath the raft, but striking them from an unstable inflatable platform required skill. Callahan used the short spear gun he had recovered from Napoleon Solo. He learned to watch the movement of the fish. He learned how light distorted their apparent position beneath the surface. He learned when to strike. His early attempts failed, but failure could not remain failure. Every missed fish represented energy, spent without food gained. Eventually, he began catching mahi-mahi, also called dorado. These fish became his main food source. He ate them raw. He consumed the flesh, organs, and other nutrient-rich portions that would normally be discarded. The fluids inside the fish also contributed a small amount of hydration. It was not enough to replace fresh water, but every usable drop mattered. Callahan eventually described himself as an aquatic caveman. His tools were primitive. His environment was unforgiving, but he gradually developed an effective hunting routine. He did not conquer the Atlantic. He learned how to extract just enough from it to delay death. The raft becomes an island. As the days passed, the life raft began transforming. Marine growth attached itself to the underside. Barnacles and small organisms gathered around the rubber. Small fish arrived to feed or seek shelter. Larger fish followed the smaller fish. The raft became an artificial island. This developing ecosystem helped keep Callahan alive, but it also changed the dangers around him. The smell and movement of injured fish attracted larger predators. Sharks approached the raft. Callahan later said that some of the encounters were frightening, although sharks did not attack him constantly throughout the ordeal. A shark did not need to bite Callahan directly to kill him. The raft itself was his life support system. Its inflated chambers kept him above the ocean. Its canopy protected him from some of the sun. Its floor separated his damaged skin from constant immersion. One bite into an air chamber could begin a slow collapse. The sharks were therefore more than animals swimming nearby. They were potential threats to the thin rubber boundary between Callahan and the Atlantic. But the fish that attracted predators also became his salvation. The ecosystem gave him food. Near the end, it would also help rescuers find him. The Invisible Man. Callahan drifted through areas crossed by ships. On several occasions, he saw vessels. He fired flares. He attempted to signal, but the ships continued moving. To understand why, imagine standing on the bridge of a large cargo vessel. The deck may be several stories above the water. The ocean horizon stretches for miles. Waves, glare, and spray continually change the surface. A life raft only 6 feet across may appear as a dark speck for a few seconds before disappearing behind another wave. A person inside it is even smaller. Callahan could see the ships because they towered above the horizon. The ships could not see him because he was almost level with the water. This is the cruel geometry of rescue at sea. The larger object is visible from the smaller object, but the smaller object may remain completely invisible from the larger one. Each passing ship created hope. Each disappearing stern produced another psychological collapse. Callahan had to continue surviving while knowing rescue might pass within sight and never recognize that he was there. The psychological war. Survival is not only a physical calculation, it is also a struggle to prevent the mind from concluding that effort is pointless. Callahan kept a log. He estimated his position. He observed the stars. He developed routines. He exercised when possible. He maintained equipment. He hunted. He rationed water. He planned for future shortages. These actions created structure. Structure gave time a purpose. Without routine, 76 days could become an undefined expanse of fear. With routine, the day could be divided into problems. Check the solar still. Inspect the raft. Repair the fishing equipment. Catch food. Estimate drift. Protect the water. Rest. Begin again. Callahan could not control whether a ship appeared. He could control whether his equipment was ready when one did. He could not control the current. He could try to determine where it was carrying him. He could not force the rain to fall. He could prepare a system to collect it. This mental approach became one of his most important survival tools. He reduced an impossible situation into tasks small enough to complete. The saltwater body. The human body is not designed to live inside a wet, salty enclosure for months. Callahan developed severe sores across his skin. Salt crystals accumulated in wounds. The raft was constantly damp. Every movement created friction. Areas of damaged skin could not dry properly. His muscles began shrinking as his body consumed stored fat and protein. His weight fell steadily. Fat provides insulation. As he lost it, he became more vulnerable to cold. Muscle provides strength. As it disappeared, fishing and repairs required a greater percentage of his remaining energy. This created another dangerous equation. The longer Callahan survived, the more skilled he became at living inside the raft. But the longer he survived, the less physical strength he had available to apply those skills. Experience was increasing. Capacity was decreasing. Eventually, those lines could cross. He might know exactly what needed to be done, but no longer possessed the strength to do it. Then the raft was punctured. Day 43. Around the 43rd day, Callahan accidentally drove the spear into part of the raft while attempting to handle a fish. The puncture damaged one of the inflatable chambers. Air began escaping. This was the failure he had feared from the beginning. The raft was not a single solid object. Its survival depended on internal pressure. As pressure fell, the floor softened. The sides lost shape. Water entered more easily. The raft became harder to manage. Callahan attempted repairs, but the damaged area was difficult to reach and keep dry. Adhesive patches do not bond easily to wet, salty rubber that is continually flexing. The sea did not pause while he worked. The raft continued moving. Waves continued striking. Callahan's hands were damaged, his strength was reduced, and every repair attempt consumed material that could not be replaced. He began pumping air into the chamber repeatedly to keep the raft from collapsing. This changed his daily survival budget. Time previously used to fish, rest, or maintain the water system now had to be spent pumping. Energy previously saved for emergencies was consumed simply preserving the raft's shape. Sleep became more difficult. He could not safely ignore the leak for long. Callahan struggled with the puncture for approximately 10 days. By around day 50, he reached his lowest point. He had been fighting the leak for days. He was exhausted. His repair attempts had repeatedly failed. He began to surrender. For a moment, he accepted that the raft would eventually collapse and that he would die. Then the thought of dying within hours frightened him back into action. He tried again. He altered the repair system. He found a way to control the leak. It was not a perfect restoration, but it reduced the failure enough to keep the raft functional. This may have been the most important victory of his ordeal. Not because it permanently solved every problem, but because he solved it while believing he had reached the limit of what he could endure. The real survival math. Callahan's ordeal can be understood as a series of narrowing margins. His solar stills had to produce enough water to keep dehydration from becoming fatal. His fishing had to provide enough calories and protein to preserve basic function. His raft had to remain inflated enough to keep most of his body above water. His body had to retain enough strength to operate the equipment. His mind had to retain enough hope to continue performing the work. Every system depended on the others. Without water, he could not think clearly enough to repair the raft. Without food, he could not produce enough strength to pump it. Without the raft, no amount of food or water could save him. Without mental discipline, the physical resources would eventually become useless. Ocean survival was not one equation. It was an entire network of equations. A small failure in one category increased pressure on every other category. A leaking raft increased physical labor. Physical labor increased water consumption. Increased water consumption placed more pressure on the stills. Time spent repairing reduced time available to fish. Reduced food weakened his body. Weakness made future repairs harder. The disaster attempted to become self-reinforcing. Callahan survived by interrupting that chain repeatedly. He solved the most immediate problem before it created 3 additional ones. The final days. As Callahan drifted west, changes began appearing around him. Bird life increased. He noticed signs suggesting that land might be near. He saw the glow of a lighthouse during his 75th night. But after so many false hopes, he could not assume rescue was guaranteed. On April 20, 1982, his 76th day in the raft, fishermen near the Caribbean island of Marie-Galante noticed birds gathering above the water. The birds were interested in fish. The fish were gathered around the marine ecosystem beneath the raft. The fishermen approached, expecting to find a promising place to fish. Instead, they found a severely emaciated man floating inside a damaged inflatable raft. The ecosystem Callahan had used for food had finally made him visible. The fish had sustained him. The birds following those fish had attracted the fishermen. The same natural system that had brought sharks near the raft had also helped bring rescue. Callahan had drifted roughly 1,800 miles. He had lost approximately 1/3 of his body weight. His body was covered with sores. He weighed near 100 pounds. But he was alive. Why? He survived. It would be wrong to say that luck played no part in Steven Callahan's survival. He was fortunate to retrieve equipment from Napoleon Solo. He was fortunate that the solar stills eventually functioned. He was fortunate to find fish. He was fortunate the raft survived the puncture. He was fortunate the current carried him toward Caribbean islands rather than away from them. And he was fortunate the fishermen followed the birds. But luck alone cannot explain 76 days. Luck provided opportunities. Callahan still had to use them. A solar still is useless if it is not maintained. A fish is useless if it cannot be caught. A repair kit is useless if exhaustion convinces the survivor to stop trying. A passing rainstorm is useless if no collection system is ready. Callahan survived because he combined luck with preparation, experimentation, and routine. He treated survival as a continuous engineering problem. When something failed, he studied it. When a method produced too little water, he adjusted it. When fishing attempts failed, he improved his technique. When his raft began collapsing, he continued testing repairs after his confidence was gone. The lessons. The first lesson is that emergency equipment must be accessible. Callahan survived partly because he had a life raft, solar stills, flares, a spear gun, and survival supplies. But he still had to return to the flooded boat to recover several critical items. During a faster sinking, those supplies might have disappeared. Modern sailors should consider a prepared ditch bag containing a registered emergency beacon, water, signaling equipment, communications devices, medical supplies, and basic survival tools. The second lesson is that redundancy matters. One solar still could fail. Callahan had several. One inflatable chamber could leak. The raft retained enough remaining buoyancy to give him time to work. One method of obtaining water might fail. Rain collection created another option. The third lesson is that a beacon can change the entire rescue equation. Callahan had flares and signaling equipment, but passing ships still failed to see him. A modern emergency position indicating radio beacon can transmit a distress signal and location through satellites. A personal locator beacon provides another potential layer of protection. The fourth lesson is that survival requires routine. People often imagine survival as an endless state of panic. Panic cannot be sustained for 76 days. Callahan replaced panic with work. Each task helped preserve equipment while also preserving his mind. The final lesson is that survival may depend on continuing after you believe you have already failed. Callahan's lowest point came after he had survived more than 6 weeks. The boat sinking did not break him. The hunger did not break him. The passing ships did not break him. The leaking raft almost did. Conclusion. Steven Callahan entered the life raft with approximately 1 cup of drinking water. He emerged 76 days later, after crossing nearly 1,800 miles of ocean. Between those two moments, he created fresh water from sunlight. He turned a rubber raft into a fishing platform. He learned to hunt an ecosystem that had formed beneath him. He survived sharks, storms, saltwater wounds, starvation, and equipment failure. But the greatest threat was not any single animal or wave. It was the accumulating mathematics of decline. Less water, less food, less strength, less equipment, less hope. Every day reduced something. Callahan survived because he kept creating small gains inside that larger decline. 1 fish, 1 cup of water, 1 successful patch, 1 more day. That is the horrifying truth about ocean survival. You do not defeat the entire Atlantic Ocean. You solve the next problem before it becomes the last problem you will ever face.